Good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock. We are about to commence our April meeting for the State Advisory Council and Educational Opportunity for Military Children. We have a couple of council members who are just logging in. So we'll give just another minute to get a little closer to what we can call a quorum. I've just heard from today two members who unfortunately have had something come up on short notice, a family emergency, and another on campus, just staffing, unable to staff or fill cover duties during the meeting. And so we will be a little shorthanded. So I'm going to give it another minute or two to see if we have a few more people join so we can move forward with our agenda. Well, actually, while I was talking, we had a couple of more panelists join, and so I think we can go ahead and get started. So if council members could come off cameras just as we get started. Of course, completely understand if you need to go off camera for portions of the meeting. We are scheduled until 3 o'clock, but it would be nice to start with cameras on. I mentioned if you're just joining, we are a couple of council member shorts today. A couple of things have come up. I don't think we have any major action items, but we do have a lot of things to discuss. So this meeting is recorded. I'll be sure to send out minutes and a link to the recording after the meeting. So those members who are not with us today can catch up and get on track for our next meeting. But a lot of ground to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our call to order. So this is our call to order. I will start our meeting officially with our roll call. I am Jessica Snyder, the MIC3 Commissioner Designee from the Texas Education Agency. Dr. John Kraft.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be with you guys.
Thank you. Nice to have you. Colonel Dalby. I see logged in. We can come back to you. Feel free to come off mute and introduce yourself as present. Lina de la Cruz has notified me is unable to step away from her duties today. Captain Huffstetler.
Hey, good afternoon, Captain Huffstetler. I'm the commanding officer of Naval Air Station Fort Worth. Glad to be
Wonderful.
here.
Glad to have you here. Nancy Patterson also, unfortunately, is not able to join us. Again, we are recording the meeting and we'll make sure that minutes and recording of the meeting are made available to council members who are not with us today. Dr. Roper.
Hi. Hope everybody's well. I did put in the note, the chat, that I do have to leave at 2. And I will probably come off camera for just a few minutes. I need to feed my face. But
of course, completely understand. We appreciate your showing us your face for roll call. We will probably cover the majority of the business side by 2 o'clock. We do have an update on some activities that we're excited about that are happening at TEA. But again, we will be recording that portion of the meeting as well. Simone Wentlet Hendricks.
Good afternoon. I'm present.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Madison Yandel. For our next physician, Kelly Kravitz, I don't think Kelly is with us, but we have 2 representatives from her office who will be presenting to us this afternoon. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves as present, John and Ann.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Ann Lay, and I am the HMAR manager.
Thank you, Dr. Lay.
Good afternoon. I am John Dobbins, and I'm a specialist with the HMAR department.
Great. Thank you for joining us. You will notice, looking at the rest of our roll call, we've got a few vacancies on the council, and that's actually one of our agenda items today to discuss. So looking forward to having that conversation and hopefully filling at least some of those positions very quickly. Before we move on, I do want to acknowledge that April is the month of the military child. We will have time at the end for council member reports. If there are any activities you're aware of that are happening at your installments or in your districts, would love to hear from you, any activities that are happening to support really the focal point of this council, which is the military connected student. Public comments is a standing item on this agenda. No comments have been received. We are required to post an open meeting act and accept a request for public comments up till noon the day of the meeting. These are simply those procedures for and guidelines for public comments, but we do not have any public comments to address as a council today. As I mentioned, here is our full agenda. We're going to start with council membership. I'll go ahead and walk through the other items. We have a couple of actions taken and a couple of actions to be taken, or really questions that I have for the council before we move forward with some of your membership decisions. Next, we'll move to our operating procedures. Based on our conversation of the council membership, there may or may not be adjustments to the operating procedures. So I went ahead and included that as an agenda item so that we could make any revisions as needed. And then we'll shift to council priorities. This is going to be an opportunity for me to hear a little bit from you about how the council has established priorities in the past, where we are with those priorities, and how you would like to move forward as a council. I'm a little bit behind in terms of having a priorities conversations for 2025. I think the council knows we're kind of in a transition. I think the first meeting in October, I had been in this role for 3 weeks, and then our second meeting for 3 months, and now 6 months. So it's time to get to work and start making some traction. And I'd like to, as a part of that transition, have that conversation about council priorities and what you think we can focus on and accomplish for the remainder of the year. And then we'll transition to council member and staff reports. I mentioned we have a report from the At-Risk and Highly Mobile Department, and also we'll turn it over to council members for any reports from things that are happening in your areas. We'll go over upcoming events and then adjourn. So the council membership, just as a reminder, at our last meeting in January, the council approved 2 new ex officio positions for the council. One was to include a representative from the Texas National Guard, and the second is to include a representative from the reserve component of any military branch. These would be ex officio positions, so they're non-voting members, but would still be able to engage in any conversations and discussions that the council engages in. There were a couple of places where membership is addressed in your operating procedures, and the council addressed both. One of the sections is about representation, what entity or organization or sector the individual member represents. And then the other section is terms. And again, you identified both. What you're seeing on your screen now is the first section, which is that kind of representation. So you can see the list here. You may see your own position reflected here. This is where you indicated that you would add these 2 positions. So this is A, and this is new B that the council voted on, and by majority, actually without objection, to add non-voting ex officio members of the council. And I've bolded designated by their respective branch or the agency to include those 2 positions. I recognized after the meeting that while I think that bolded language is very helpful, it gives some flexibility that could either be a designation by the branch, or that TEA could identify that member. It doesn't, at the same time, with me as a new commissioner, give me clear guidelines of how you would like to proceed with the identification of these 2 positions. So in order to move forward with them, I wanted to have a conversation. It doesn't necessarily need to go in your operating procedures. It can be just an internal administrative procedure. But I'd like to hear from you what this process should look like. I'll throw out some examples before I open up the floor. I could send out a call after the meeting to the branches, to the representative for each branch, and ask if they have one or more suggestions for either or both of these positions, or if if no names were received, or if you simply preferred, TEA could reach out to members directly and coordinate the identification and selection of these members. But again, I wanted to hear from the council how you would like to proceed with the identification of these members before we simply went out and selected them. So the discussion's open. Love to hear from you. It might be helpful to hear from one of our representatives from an installation or from one of the branches. I think even just to start, is this an area where you would have the right connections or contacts to be able to suggest an individual?
I'll make some comments. So here at the Joint Reserve Base in Fort Worth, we really have an abundance of both. So I can think of a handful of people that would fit the reserve component. We have essentially what's a wing commander of reserve centers here, who was a former base commander, who's would be a great nominee. So I think perhaps I think fitness and desire are two things that would be nice. And I think we could probably gauge that through some informal conversations. I would be happy to nominate some folks and just kind of give a short resume snapshot of what they would bring to the table. And maybe we could just open that up to the other installation commanders to do the same. And then now I'm not sure how we get to the final names that we invite to it, but I would say that would be a good start for the vetting process to get some nominees.
So I think that sounds great. I think I heard you say you could bring a nominee or nominees, given that there are two positions. Perhaps that could happen with each installation, but we would need to navigate, discuss how you would come to just one representative amongst the different installations. I could put out there, if the council were open to it, it could also be if the council were comfortable with starting with your installation, with your branch, Captain Huffsteller, and then follow suit behind you, and just the council could decide, then we'll pick who will go next. A couple of different ways we could go about this.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. We have representation from the 10th Air Force and the 301st Air Wing here from the Air Force Reserve side. We have a large footprint of Navy Reserve leaders on the base. So the Reserve side, and then the Texas Air National Guard is one of our tenant flying units with the 136th. So there's some names that we could provide.
Great, and I think I had overlooked, you mentioned that you have probably a fair selection in both positions. Do they need to be different branches at the same time? We want to alternate that and open for one position, one for the other. Thoughts?
Yeah, great. That's a great question. Yeah, so we have Air National Guard. We'll soon have Army National Guard as well, but Air National Guard on the kind of the Air Force side. So I'd probably have more folks to pick from on the Navy Reserve side, just because have more Navy tenants on the base. But I think having some diversity there would be good, as far as if we were to bring one of each, one from the Guard and one from Reserve component specifically. I think having a different service representative would be wise.
And I don't think I realized this, Captain Huffsteller, you would have access to both? We
do. Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
Navy and Air Force.
Yeah.
But as well as, I would say two branches and also both of the positions.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we have flag leadership and 06 leadership for the Air Force and the Navy on the installation, Navy Reserve, I should say. And then we also have Marine Corps and Army Reserve as well on the base.
Thank you. Other thoughts or suggestions about how the council would come to identifying the members for these two positions?
May I offer my opinion?
Of course.
if TEA would, reach out to the branches with a call for designees, I feel maybe then TEA would be able to provide guidance on what that designate would look like and what is expected to from the council members. That's just a thought that I would like to add.
So Simone, I think I hear you saying giving that opportunity, and that's where Captain Huffstadler started, was making the call to each of the branches and letting them, us also providing some information about the role of the council members, expectations, and then letting them bring names forward to us. Did I capture that correctly, Simone?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Other ideas? Which of the two options are other members and members who have already spoken are preferred? Would you prefer to have a volunteer to move forward to help us identify these first two positions, for example, reaching out and working directly with Captain Huffstadler, or the second option of reaching out to separate installations, which can include Captain Huffstadler, but would be open to other branches as well?
I think starting out with a broad reach to garner interest would be good. I think we'll just have to be prepared to then figure out how you're going to wade through potentially if there are a lot of people who apply to it. Let's say you get 15 or 20 that apply to it, how you would handle that vice just a direct nomination coming from somebody. And then of course, I think after the broad goes out, hopefully the members of the council could go and kind of carry the water and speak to what the importance is and what participating. I typically haven't seen a great success when you just cast the net wide without a little bit of discussion in the background of what it is and what it means to be part of. So I think probably a combination of both, but starting with a broad reach out of fairness and kind of openness.
So you bring up a good point. So, and that is more in line with Simone suggested, is starting out with having more opportunity and a little bit wider net, not a completely open call. I think we could target those communications to the different branches. And I might reach out to individual council members who have more affiliation with one branch or the other. But then when we have multiple potential candidates, how the council wants to move forward with selection. The way the language is written, it's designated by their respective branch or the agency, which leaves that, again, somewhat open. Because it's only two positions, I think the different branches could designate their own candidate, but not necessarily the person who would sit on the council, because then we would exceed the number of positions that you have. There is also the ability in the language that you adopted that TEA could make a designation, but I would want to be really open and hear from the council how you would like for that selection of the finalists to be made. Potentially, it might be a tweak to the operating procedures if you wanted to include that the council might make that final decision. And so that's one I'm hoping to hear from each council member on about whether or not they would want TEA to make that selection from the finalists, or whether that's something that you would want brought forth to the council.
I would be comfortable with the TEA making that decision. I think if you set it up somewhat like a normal performance description of what the job entails and what a good qualified candidate looks like, then I think y'all would be in the right position to weigh the resumes that come back to you. But open it the other way too.
Okay. Dr.
I
Kraft?
agree.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would-
thank you
I'm
so much.
sorry. I'm sorry. I agree with that as well. I think TEA would be, the finalizing factor here.
I concur as well.
This is
Oh,
Dr.
God.
Hooper. I agree as well.
Okay. I think we could also present how some of those decisions were made. I mean, we would ensure we could even, if we wanted, the need for transparency to have some administrative procedures around that we would select, that we would rotate the different branches as well as representation from different parts of the state. And so I can draft something up like that to put in front of the council. I'm not sure that we could accomplish this between now and the next meeting, but I think we can certainly start the next steps in putting together the communications for the different branches. So I will definitely, the things I can promise between now and your next meeting is that we will make those contacts and provide a timeline, an ideal timeline. We may not be able to have new members, but I think we can, again, make some next steps between now and the July meeting and have an update for the council at that time. So thank you. I appreciate everybody chiming in. I think that the next, this is actually kind of a little bit of housekeeping. I mentioned staying on the topic of the membership. So you have two different lists of membership, some that are designated and appointed. And then you have a section that TEA can identify. It's actually, if I go back to the previous, that, oh, sorry, it's not reflected here, but there is in your operating procedures, it says that TEA can identify additional representatives for the council. And you have that, that's an approved set list. One of the positions in this list is referenced as TEA's highly mobile student coordinator. That is not actually a position that exists. I mentioned has been the transition. Our commissioner has moved on from TEA, as well as the curriculum specialist, Sherry Messer, who supported this work. And then if you recall, Jimmy Bowser served, actually this was his title and identified, but it's very specific in the role. And that position, I think, has been restructured and reformatted. So it's really just a matter of requesting the council's permission to update this reference so that it's just a little bit more broad and could be any member from really from the highly mobile and at-risk population, which is Dr. Lay and John Dobbins' department, Kelly Kravitz, who you have heard from before in other meetings, but who's not here with us today, but has kind of been serving in that role after Mr. Bowser left, I believe Dr. Bowser. So the language, and I thought that Kelly might be with us today. I think I'm looking to see if I have it in front of me. I believe it is family, and John and Anne, you may be able to help me with this. I believe one of the titles that we had discussed that might be a little bit more broad than actual the coordinator position is Military Family Education Liaison. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. So my Zoom, I'm gonna type that into the chat so folks can see it. Military Family Education Liaison, and that would just give us a little more flexibility to identify that replacement. And this, I don't think we necessarily need to do a formal vote since it's more of a housekeeping or technical edit. I would just ask if there's any objections to TEA revising the highly mobile student coordinator to read as military family education liaison and make conforming edits throughout the operating procedures where it's referenced. Any objections? All right, well, hearing none, we will go ahead and make that change. Thank you. I think this was just an example. After the actual positions, the next reference to membership is in the terms that people will serve. This is just, I've highlighted where we would again go in and make that conforming edit that there were no objections to under the terms. And that's going to enable us to move forward with filling that position because I didn't have a coordinator to identify. So we'll work internally with TA since this is also a position that TA identified as an additional representative for the council. With this broader language, we'll be able to make that selection. And that position, I think we should be able to officially fill for the July meeting. This is again just showing you where you decided to put the National Guard and the reserve component, where you placed it in the terms. So actually just going back, you have one set of positions that are appointed or designated, and they serve until there's a change in the post or that member steps down. So if you want to skim that for a moment and double check which list you're on, the second set of terms is a 1-2-year term with a position to extend a term. And so give you a moment to look at that list. That is where you placed the representative for the National Guard and a reservist from any military branch. The reason why I'm calling this out is between now and the next meeting, I'll be reaching out. I need to do look back at the records and documentation that my predecessor has left to find when people started on the council and identify which of those two terms you fall under. And if you're nearing the end of a term, whether it's reaching out to you about a possible extension or whether it's already been extended and maybe working with you to identify a replacement. So just wanted to put that on folks' radar, that is another action that will be TA staff will take on between now and your next meeting. One other set of membership positions that I wanted to talk about with you today that was on in your vacant, identified as vacant during the roll call. There are two positions that are designated, or I should say appointed by members of the Texas legislature. The chair of the Senate Committee on Education or their designee, which historically, I think that has been a designee, and then the chair of the House of Representatives for the Committee on Public Education, or that chair's designee. Previously, you had designees for both, but the chairs have changed for both of those committees this legislative session and before. And so we are hopeful that we will be able to, while everyone's in town, while the legislature is in session, that we can ask for these two new designees. So while it is the hope that we would actually have these additional designees in place for the July meeting, it will just depend on, they're very busy, as you know, and have multiple priorities. And so if we are able to get those names and invitations out in time, we hope to have them join in July. But I just wanted to give the council an update as to why those two positions are open. Those are those permanent seats that they either they step down, but what's not clarified in the rules is that they serve at the pleasure of the chair of those two education committees. And since we have new chairs, at that point, they have the opportunity to extend those members or to select a new member. And so that's the process that we're in right now. Any questions about that? Okay, hearing none. Speaking of priorities, this is I'm unfortunate that we are missing two of the members. Again, they'll have the opportunity to watch our recording But this is where I would like to transition. Actually, we're on operating procedures, but we did not actually amend your operating procedures. So I'm going to move on to this slide, which introduces your council priorities. So again, acknowledging that the council has gone through a pretty significant transition with the 3 supporting TEA members have moved on. And then I just also acknowledging that up until this point, I have failed to establish priorities with the council for this year. To date, we've focused on identifying this membership. So I will say for myself internally, one of my priorities is to more fully staff, for lack of a better term, the council. But you have some existing priorities from 2024, and I'd like to start the conversation with this group today at this meeting, what priorities you would like to focus on for the remainder of the year, and even start talking about and planning a little bit for the following year after that, so that we can start kind of hit the ground running, if you will. Because we've got a couple of members not with us, because we've got new members coming, I don't think we need to go very far about the future, but I would very much like to talk with the members we have with us today about where we can focus, where you would like to focus for the remainder of the year. So with that, I thought it would be helpful to start with the role of the State Advisory Council. And this comes back to what Simone was talking about, Captain Huffsettler. And as we reach out for new membership, this is something that we need to clearly communicate. And I think it's helpful also for existing sitting council members to revisit from time to time. So what you're looking at here is a list of the role of the State Advisory Council. So I'm just going to give folks a minute to read through that list. Last year for fiscal year 24, or I should say the 2024 year, the council had indicated, and this is myself looking back at previous presentations or meetings and minutes, the council indicated that they specifically wanted to focus on number 1, the role of disseminating information about the military compact to districts. And I think very specifically had talked about counselors. I think so, as I mentioned, what to help me learn more about the council members and your own motivations for serving on this council. Want to understand like where the group would like to focus their attention for the remainder of this year. Again, as I said, less maybe looking forward since we're missing a few folks and we're still relatively early in 2025. But I think my question here might be, is number 1 an area, would you like to continue with the focus that the council identified previously, or are you ready to set your sights on something new? I'm going to open up for discussion. I can come back to this slide at any time. I'm going to paraphrase it really quickly, and then I'm going to show you the 2024 and priorities, and then open up for discussion. But I just want to pull out where I've underlined things here. So in terms of the role and the things that you could do, it's the dissemination of information about the compact, identifying topics and issues that pertain to both your parents and students, but also your districts and your schools. You also have the role of advising the commissioner on these topics, advising TEA about dispute resolution, which I've had to fairly recently reach out to SLOs a couple of times to help me with dispute resolution as I'm learning the landscape. But I can also have council members that I can reach out to, and then some other expectations about how often you meet and open meetings. So those are the roles. I can go back to that at any time. In terms of the priorities you identified for last year, it was that first role about dissemination of information. I pulled this slide from a 2024 meeting. You identified the following stakeholders as a priority: parents, principals, and registrars, which didn't sync exactly with other notes that I was looking about targeting counselors. So wanted to hear a little bit more about that if anyone has that recollection. And then also in one of the summaries of activities that had happened in 2024, I found there were letters that went to installation commanders, military compact trainings that Shelley Ramos and Sherry Messer had conducted. I think they did a couple of district trainings for counselors. And I think they coordinated those through council members, reaching out to districts in their area and who would like to receive a training. I think there's certainly opportunity to continue that work. If that's where the council would like to stay for wrapping up the year, it's an option, but there might be something completely new. So here's where I would like to hear from you in terms of whether it's looking at your broader roles that you can address or what you did last year, where you think we can focus for the remainder of the year to support military students.
If I can just, so when the council was first established, getting the information out about the military interstate compact to parents, principals, counselors, and all of the stakeholders was a high priority. Alongside that, I know that TEA went out to regions to train counselors on the MIC3, which we heard from our counselors in the region was very helpful. And I feel that this is, you know, there were some flyers that were created for parents and registrars to understand better what the council is here for and what the MIC3 is here for. And I feel that this is always going to be an area to revisit as you have new parents that join the military, as you have new registrars and principals and counselors. So I think that, you know, there was a push for that was really great in the beginning when we started the state council. And I feel it is always going to be an area that we can revisit to make sure that new folks in schools, parents, and other areas are aware of it. You know, maybe not a high priority, but keep it in the back of our toolbox to revisit at the beginning of the school year and things like that to push out that information once again.
Thank you. I think what I'm hearing you say is don't maybe identify new priorities moving forward, but don't forget, don't lose sight of that information, communication, and training as an ongoing effort under the council. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
So I would like to, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not sure, and I'm guessing there's a reason. I'm not sure why we have registrars there and not counselors. I don't know. For the most part, registrars are not going to, at least in our district, are not going to be speaking to parents about the military compact. It will be principals and it will be counselors. So I'm not sure where registrars came from and why that's there. I agree. I think that this needs to continue to be a priority. But if you will go back to the other slide. So, and I know it says council priorities, but then it has the role of the State Advisory Council. I feel as though the first four, maybe even the fifth one, could be like maybe consistent council priorities. The last three kind of seem like administrative stuff that we have to, so I wouldn't include that, but I think 1 through 4, maybe 5, should probably be consistent priorities for this council. That's my input.
Thank you. So it's all important.
Yes.
And which is consistent with the fact that it is the council's role to support those areas. Comments from other council members? Before I let anybody off the hook, as we think about these priorities, I have a couple of guiding questions. And again, feel free to direct me to any of the slides you've already seen if that helps you think about these questions. But I hear all of them are important. What are the main challenges within this scope of the military compact? And I can help you identify that in facing transition military connected students. And the reason I ask that, I think you can say these are all priorities, but as we get to, because maybe not in this meeting today, but as we look ahead for the next year and identifying things that are specific and actionable, where are the challenges, those topics and issues that were outlined in the priorities where you think this council might be able to provide some support?
Jessica, I think that the issue is just people knowing, number one, that the compact exists, and then knowing what's in it. I think a lot of times, especially our kids, our military connected kids who are in school districts such as Northside, Northeast, wherever we have them, Judson, that have a high population of military connected students. And I don't know what their level of knowledge is, but I think that's the key, making sure that we know what we're supposed to be doing for those kids as it relates to the military interstate compact. And I think some of our military connected kids can sometimes be at a disadvantage because our counselors and maybe even the principals do not know what that compact says and what we should be doing for those students. Again, I don't have any proof, but you talk to people sometimes and some of them don't even know what that is, right? So the knowledge begins with introducing them to the compact. So I think the education part of it, I think is really important to get across the state, especially those that are near military installations. So I just think that just the education part is important.
I think to Simone's point, I think that is what really that focus area for was around with the trainings and the flyers and letters to the commanders. Just again, how that outreach and letting new parents and new school liaison officers come through as people move and are relocated. There's this continuing need for that education. So not losing sight of that.
The only thing I'll add, I agree with Dr. Roper. The only thing I'll add is it might be more appropriate to incorporate it into a conversation in and around a pathway to being a TEA approved Purple Star campus. Just a thought.
I'm sorry, I missed something. What was the connection with Purple Star?
Well, it could be a part of the conversation. The education on the MIC3 could be a part of a conversation of just really the pathway to becoming a TEA designated Purple Star campus. To me, the Purple Star designation is probably going to be of a greater resource to military transitioning families and particularly, like say, the population that they're going to serve. I think that the MIC3 is important, obviously, for counselors to be aware of, but I don't know necessarily that it is as important for the focus to be on community or even parent education purposes. That's just my two thoughts.
Thank you. Well, they're doing something right? So, I mean, it's the process of getting there, but they're also those Purple Star campuses are a resource which is at first where I thought you were going, and wondering like what information and best practice do they have to share, because they're the ones there in boots on the ground, if you
Right.
will,
Yeah.
in the trenches, navigating transcripts and graduation with and relocations with students. So I could see that both sides of that,
Yeah.
learning through the training through the designation, and then also that we've got over 500 schools in Texas that are actively working in this space, and being commended and acknowledged for it. Flashing forward in our current, upcoming events, in our next meeting, I have extended an invitation to the national headquarters to come and talk to the council about a couple of things. One, to be honest, a part of my own education as I'm learning more about the compact, the role of the State Advisory Council and how we work together. So I've extended an invitation and expect them to be joining us in July, a member joining us in July. Part of the conversation, there is, Purple Star is not under the compact, they're separate, but it doesn't mean, I don't think it doesn't mean that there can't be connection points, such as the one that Dr. Kraft just made. And so one of the things I was going to ask in helping our guest or our presenter from national headquarters is what topics you would like to hear from. And I'm going to kind of pencil that one in if she can help identify, I'm not sure how her name is pronounced, Sharice, Imai. I hope let's kind of navigate how they can, I understand that they're separate and under different authorities, but how they could support one another. Thank you. Other major main challenges that you think that there are opportunities within this council to prioritize and support? I am going to go back to this roles and point out, and warning Captain Hetzetler, I'm going to put you on the spot here in a minute. This identification of both topics and issues, as well as Dr. Ripper, I know you were looking at number 5. It's like maybe 5, maybe not, dispute resolution. There is that broad awareness of just what the compact is, that it exists, and what it means, what it requires. And then there's just that detailed, that phone call of this one particular student in this one particular issue, and knowing how to navigate that topic, which I think sometimes, even when there's the broad awareness of the compact and maybe even what it means, but how to specifically apply it to a certain situation. I had a scenario, and I'm sure the council probably knows this, but, and this is not a real data point, I'm kind of making it probably 75% or more, it might be more like 90% of issues that happen, maybe it's 95 of issues that happen on campuses with military connected students are resolved by the SLO. They are the experts, they're the ones that are there, they're the ones that parents know and can reach out to and get immediate support. But sometimes it's either, maybe it's more of like interpretation of the council or an unresponsive district that, or maybe it's just, it's come to me to begin with that they've just reached out, a parent has reached out to TEA first from the website or however they've made that contact. But these specific issues that we're stuck on, and maybe it's actually a really broad, maybe it's really common, but that particular SLO or that particular district hasn't encountered it before. That information sharing is where I'm going about how to handle specific issues. It's a part of the training. There's a couple of slides, but where I'm going with this is case studies. And I think it was Captain Hetzetler, there was an issue in your area and you had some ideas around how that something like that can be brought to the council. And I don't know if you remember the particular issue, or if it's something that you would like to speak to. But I know you had some ideas about how, you know, this shouldn't be happening, and how can the council help? And I hope I haven't like caught him away from his desk, but
No, you got me. I guess
okay.
trying to get my video going there again, so you don't think I'm a stranger. But no, yeah, you're right. We have gained a little distance from this one, so I don't remember all the particulars. But I believe it was an 11th grade student who had who the service member was activated on orders, or was sent on I think was sent overseas. Family returned to Dallas to go to school, and when the service member came back, the family then went back from Dallas back to, I think they were Virginia Beach, or they were going to Virginia. I know that. And they were just having a really hard time getting that student processed out of the school properly in order to get gained and picked up on the Virginia side of things. And it kind of just turned into I think for the school, they hadn't really dealt with a military student transitioning like that previously, and in an area there's probably not much of a density of military students moving back to an area where they deal with military students all the time. And so the other side just kind of had their process way that they expected things to go. In Dallas, they did not know how to handle it, and they just weren't answering the mail. And so I think as we communicated, and then Heather, our school liaison, got involved, and then you guys got involved, that really just started to increase the speed at which the district was handling the case, and they were not putting much attention to it previous to us getting engaged. And what ultimately what it came down to is this child was not able to go to school for, I think, at least two weeks or so out in Virginia once they had moved back and were ready to go. And this was all because they weren't getting processed out of their school district correctly. And so, yeah, so I think when we had discussed, my point was just, I don't have a lot of touch points with MCP or these case studies. But when they do arise, we want to have a process by which we can, expedite the flow of information and take an action as quickly as possible. So I said it would be beneficial on my end to just know when there are other cases like this and how they were handled, and maybe how we get to resolution quickly to ensure that a student isn't disadvantaged by somebody not understanding the process.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Your memory was even better than mine, which was helpful, because I think I was just generally going to ask the question, where are there opportunities in that, but now I can say in that scenario, not just in case studies in general, but in that scenario, are there opportunities where there are issues there that can be teased out and in some way formally addressed?
I think one of the issues that I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is oftentimes it's schools that are not as aware of military families and their transition, and that often goes back to education. They are not aware of what it is they can do under the compact, how they can help that family transition as smoothly as possible. And we, as the school liaison officers, often have that connection with the schools to, move that along a little bit. But if we encounter schools that do not have the direct connection to the installation, or are not as aware, then sometimes it happens, that they do need to have that education piece of, hey, this is the compact, this is what you should be doing, going back to educating.
I think there were two things I heard from both Simone and Dr. Hustetler that were not necessarily unique, but were relevant to this particular case, which was, it was a district that doesn't serve a lot of military connected students. So they weren't familiar. I think that some of the trainings that were set up that Sherry and Shelley did were in some part set up by the the school liaison officers that they knew, and maybe I believe a council member, it might have been you, Simone, actually helped set up some of those meetings, which, not to say it was great to hear that those counselors found that information helpful, but it sounds like there's a broader base there of identifying, getting this information out to other schools, maybe the contacts that we don't yet have, someone directly to set that up for us. So I guess my question that I'm working towards there is it a matter of continuing these, the trainings that have started? I've already heard like the training and education needs to continue. Would the council be interested in, for the remainder of this year, that we maybe find some new areas and districts where we haven't done these trainings before, and giving a broader base access? Is that the way to reach these schools that are a little less connected?
I would say yes.
Are there other ideas about how to reach these campuses that aren't like already directly connected into the military student network?
So I'm not sure, but is there, and correct me again if I'm wrong, does TEA have meetings with superintendents and all school districts, public school districts? Maybe it would be worth mentioning, hey, you know what, this is the MIG-3, are your schools aware, and see what the response is there.
The commissioner does meet with superintendents, I want to say monthly, if I'm remembering right. So, if someone on the commissioner's staff could, kind of make that an agenda item, so the commissioner could get that out to all of the superintendents. The other idea is to, kind of work through all the region service centers. Maybe with those executive directors, they usually touch all of the school districts in their region, some kind of way, through their superintendents, with regional advisory councils, those types of things that we have each month. So I think there are different opportunities to get the message out and different avenues, so that people know that the training is there, or that the information is out there.
Great. So I think it is, what I'm hearing is that the 2024 council priorities that just happen to be on this slide, where we talked about parents, principals, registrars. I'm hearing other ESCs can be an opportunity, and that's not to disregard any of the stakeholders you've already identified, but you've identified a few more of additional administrators. Maybe it's district level. Potentially, I can reach out and see what our connection points are with the commissioner's staff, and those agendas. April would have been a great month to do it with the military, the month of the military child. But it's always a good time to talk about military connected students. So I can definitely add that as a next step. And then our ESCs, using them as a resource. I will say in that instance too, going back to while the school liaison officer, Heather, was immediately on top of this situation, I was a little sluggish in my response. As I have kind of mentioned, navigating the space, and I work in a non-monitoring position in my day job, my regular 8 to 5, that we don't have authority to intervene. And so learning a little bit more about my position and what opportunities I have to reach out to a district level and have a conversation about staff. And Dr. Rupert, it was actually a registrar who gave misinformation about when and how a student could withdraw, that actually delayed the students with withdrawal. And so I think kind of across the board, the school staff, counselors certainly, I think, are a big target for ensuring that credits are awarded and that part is happening seamlessly. But some of the registrars are gate holders as well for enrollment and withdrawal proceedings. And that's actually what delayed this particular topic. And so I can bring that forward again. This idea of case studies is interesting to me, and having this kind of repository of how we can kind of share that information across the state as well. I mentioned we don't have to figure out all of your priorities for 2026, but I want to come back to this slide. What do you feel like, question number 2, I'm going to continue to talk about and ask number 1 again as we move forward to thinking about where the council can go next. But in the immediate year, what areas of focus would you like to see that show progress, that we are being successful in supporting military connected students this year? There are some of the things that we've done before, which you can always piggyback on those if you're looking, the trainings, flyers, letters to installation commanders. In our next update or our end of year update, what are some of the things that you would like to see us accomplish?
All right, I have a question. My Zoom keeps freezing, so if I start freezing, tell me, because I don't want to be the
Sure.
guy that's freezing on Zoom. And I feel like I've talked too much. I've eclipsed my time from the last sessions for the last year. Are we able to put our finger on like where, is there any reporting that goes into where all of these military students are going to school? If we were to put that in, do we have that there? I see somebody, I see her
That's
putting
a
her hand.
perfect segue
Okay.
to our update that we're going to have. We're actually, I think I mentioned we have an update from staff. We are going to take, as we wrap up this conversation, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and watch their presentation. And if you have questions after that, if it's not at the level of detail that you're looking for, let us know. But we're
Yeah.
about to hear from that team.
Okay, well, perhaps the question will be, my wife is a special educator, and when I think about a student that has specific needs, obviously the school, the parents, and the student are all going to be on the same page with their IEP or whatever they're bringing to the table in the classroom. And so I think it will be hard as I think about the DFW Metroplex and where we can, where the information dissemination goes. There's obviously going to be people that continue to expand out to other districts that are unfamiliar with military. And if we know where they're at, then we know where to train, but assuming you might have some data on that. So over.
And I think where you're going with that is what we talked about. We started to talk about, it's like targeting some of, I think you are freezing. Sorry. I thought you said over, like over and out, but I think you just froze.
Continue to expand out to other districts that are unfamiliar with military. If we know where they're at, you're good.
Yes. Oh, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, finding some of those other areas to target. But if I can just pull from what Dr. Roper said earlier, I know he mentioned he had to jump off at 2. What we heard Simone mention is like that we need to continue to promote the awareness. And I mentioned, like, I think there are still opportunities there. It will always be one of the roles of this council. And so if it is continuing trainings for districts for this year and looking to target some of the areas where either both high number of students that are served, as well as some of our lower density areas that may not have this information, ensuring that they know the compact exists and have access as well. It can be both. It can be a 2-pronged approach. I would say anything that you would add to that you would like to see us do and target this year?
I think maybe also take some of the, trends and cases from the field and present them and how they have been resolved or how they should be resolved, and discuss them during a council meeting.
Oh, even bringing a case study to the council? At first, Simone, I thought you were going to mention incorporating them into the training, which I think has started to happen, and we can continue to
Yes.
do that and bring new ideas.
Mhm.
But did I hear you say also bring to the council?
I think that would be helpful, to hear from the field. What are the trends? What are the things that are happening in the districts? And then, just discuss the resolution process.
Captain Hutzler, Dr. Kraft, Colonel Dalby, would that be helpful information to you to have an example, maybe not every meeting, but to kind of as a standing item to look at a case study so that I think Captain Hutzler mentioned it's a little removed from him at times, but giving you some real examples.
Yeah, I'd be great with it.
I wondered too, Simone, if we couldn't have Dr. Kraft.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I think I'd be great with it. Absolutely.
I think we might even reach out to some of our school liaison officers too, Simone, about presenting the scenarios in their area too.
Yes, those are your subject matter experts. They have
Yes,
them. They
ma'am.
know how to resolve them. So that would be great.
Yes, ma'am. All right, well, I'll go ahead and wrap up this discussion for now. It sounds like just continuing some of the work that had been started, which has been on a little bit of a temporary pause. We can resume that work, but just kind of planting seeds for the continuation of this conversation when it's always a little confusing. There's the end of the quarter, which is your July meeting, and then the end of the year, of course, at the conclusion of 2025. And so we're kind of mid-year, just kind of gearing up and looking ahead. So we really have some options about formalizing priorities, whether you want to do that at the end of the quarter or the end of the fiscal year, but we can at least start kind of thinking about opportunities, looking at some case studies. But in the meantime, continuing the good work that this council has started with trainings. With that, I mentioned, I'm going to give just, it's a long time to be listening and talking. I'm going to give us just a short break here in a moment while we transition and have our other team set up to present staff updates. Let me get a couple of slides ahead. Oh, I did have one other question about what information the council needs to set priorities. We can have that conversation. I heard data, so I'll go ahead and record that. I will include that question in my follow-up communication to the council members as we prep for our next meeting to continue this conversation. So our next and really last substantive agenda item will be a TEA update on the Military Connected Student Program. A lot of interesting data points to start with, and then shifting to some of the different initiatives that are happening here at TEA that we want the council to be aware of. Some of this information might also be helpful as we think about where and how the council can focus its priorities in coming years. So looking forward to that. But I'm going to give folks a 5-minute break, stretch your legs, grab a drink of water, and come back for that presentation. So I'm going to flash this screen here, and we will resume at 2:15. So giving you just a little more than 5 minutes. If you will come back to your laptops at 2:15, we will resume our conversation then. Thank you. It is 2:15, so I am calling the council back to session. We are joined by 2 TEA staff members from the at-risk and highly mobile, and I think I'm saying that backwards. So Dr. Lay, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and your team. I will be doing the driving here in the slide deck, so I'll try to keep up, but feel free to prompt me if we're not on target or where we need to be.
Can I ask one question? Can anybody hear me? This is Colonel Dalby.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I've been unable to get my microphone to work the whole first half, so I played with it during the break and I got it. So sorry to interrupt.
Well, before we get started, was anything in particular that you wanted to weigh in or chime in before we transition to the slide deck?
The only one really was the very last slide you were talking about of talking to my counterparts and me around the active duty side. It's really just continued education. Like a lot of parents aren't aware. It's trying to get them aware of what they're entitled to and principals and everybody else. So the biggest struggle we have is a lack of knowledge across that. But as they find out about it, they do a great job of adhering to it. So I think the left side, what you did in 24, is good to continue.
I would love to just push a little bit into one of the things you said was about the parents. And that I think is one of the areas that was identified in 2024 that I'm not sure, just in reviewing, records and documents. I see the trainings that have been happening with counselors. Any thoughts or ideas? And you can postpone and bring them in July, but how do we access parents and communicate to them what their rights are and what their children's rights are?
I think this is firsthand experience. I think one of the ways that we could do it, especially in these large military towns, is these independent school districts have either on their registration page or however you register. Because when we went to register for the school, we needed an address, we needed which we really didn't need because we were active duty, but that was not clear. So my wife got very nervous about it. I think where you register and how that splash page or whatever it can be on a school district would help inform parents. We continue to try and do it through our school liaison, but you can only reach parents that are willing to learn because they're not actively out seeking that knowledge. But we continue to try and find ways to, at different events and everything else, to get the school liaison out there to educate.
That's great. I love the website idea. Simone, it looked like you might have come off mute for a minute. Did you have something to chime in?
No, I just wanted to say the school liaison office, but Colonel Darby beat me to it. Thank you, sir.
That is something too, as we continue this conversation, is then zeroing in on, we've got the broader strokes of that responsibility, but what are some of the actionable steps? So I appreciate the concreteness of we've got websites in these high military connected student population areas. And then we've had some conversation too about how do we also get the information that those that are the roads less traveled or that have fewer of these students, but that are actually sometimes the problematic where district students aren't getting the support they need because of the lack of awareness. And so I appreciate your coming off mute and chiming in before we transition to our next presentation. Thank you. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn things over to the next group. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you so much for this time and opportunity. It is an honor to be here at the State Advisory Council meeting to be able to share some of the exciting program and resource updates from the agency's military connected student programs. John and I have been listening to a lot of the comments and we're just super excited to be able to share what we have. The agency's military connected program team members are presented here on this slide. My name is Dr. Ann Lay. I am the new manager of the HMR programs, overseeing the infrastructure and project planning of our division, including military connected program and also the Purple Star campus designation. I am joined here by
You're on mute, John.
You're muted.
Sorry. Good afternoon. I am John Dobbins. I'm an HMR program specialist at the Texas Education Agency. I also work with military connected programs and Purple Star campus designation. Also, as an Army veteran myself and a father of 3 children of my own that have served in the United States Army, 2 that are currently serving, our work with military connected students is extremely important to me.
All right, on our next slide, we would like to provide a high-level overview of our continued efforts to support our local education agencies, which you'll hear as LEAs, and also our education service centers, which we refer to as ESCs, in providing excellent education to our military-connected students while their families are stationed here in Texas. We will be bringing you updates on developed data briefs, resources, trainings, and information about our 26 Purple Star campus designation application process. We first would like to start off with the data, and when the captain mentioned the data, I got super excited. I am such a data person. And so on our next slide, Jessica, if you could go to, yes, our military data brief. We wanted to briefly update you. You have a QR code here, which you can scan, but if everyone is all right, Mr. Dobbin is going to drop some links for you just in case you are interested in going to some of these data briefs that we will be presenting. We have recently updated our military student identifier, where we also refer to this as our PEAMS infographics with the most current updated information. That's the 23-24 PEAMS data. PEAMS is reported every 4 times in the school year. This happens to be the fall snapshot, which occurs in October. This is significant because currently right now we have nearly 215,000 military connected students that are attending public and open enrollment charter schools. This resource itself is very helpful for schools to assist them in understanding the requirements of identifying military connected students. And also it provides some frequently asked questions regarding the identification to assist the schools who are enrolling the students. On our next slide here, this is brand new. We took a look at developing a statewide, but also regional data brief. So we've developed 20 regional data brief, which corresponds to 20 of our region education service centers. Our statewide is a 1-pager front and back, and this helps to support the strengthening of infrastructure, implementation, and support for military connected students across Texas. But it also includes information about our Purple Star campus designation. This data report is prepared using multiple year trend analysis. And so with that, we are looking at 2022, 23, and 24 fall snapshot PEAMS data. And this allows an opportunity for our state and regional partners to gain understanding of data trends, but also discuss ways to enhance the implementation strategies for supporting military connected students. And Mr. Dobbins is going to drop that link to the statewide data report. And on the next slide, I want to go ahead and break down some of that information for you. So briefly, we'd like to highlight some of the components of this statewide data brief. So this is looking at the overall Texas data for military connected students. The first section provides a high level overview of Texas Military Student Identifier, or MSI, or PEAMS data codes across the 3-year analysis. We report the overall statewide counts by the school year, as you can see by the columns, but also by individual MSI types. So in Texas, we have 6 PEAMS code in which they correspond to active duty, National Guard, Reserve, pre-K, our veterans, and those who were fallen in the line of duty. And at the very bottom, you'll see the total military connected students count across those 3 years. What you can see that's significant is from 22 to 23, we had an increase of over 20,000 military connected students. And from 23 to 24, which is the most data that we have right now, we have close to 13,000 increase from the year before. Now, the largest percentage of growth that we have is going to be in the PEAMS code 5, which is veterans, and 6 fallen in the line of duty. And as an informal data analysis and talking to some of the school districts, we do know that this is some of the areas that people are growing in because of the increased awareness that we have included into our PEAMS data. But as we are educating our schools and our districts on how to identify our military connected students, this is where the growth is the most because they were unaware that there is an actual identifier code for these two areas. On the next slide, our next section of the data brief provides an overview of the counts of military connected students by ESC region, with majority of our military students in ESC 20, which is San Antonio area, ESC 12, and ESC 4. This information helps stakeholders to understand the importance of connecting and partnering with our ESC military champions, because some of our LEAs who are located in ESC regions are not located near an installation such as ESC 4, but ESC 4, which is the Houston area, is the top 3 with student population who are military connected. And so it is important for us to be able to connect and educate and have that partnership with our installations. On the last section of our statewide data brief is our Purple Star campus designation. Here, it is a lot of information. It's broken down into our ESC regions, but you also see the total number of military connected students. And then each year that TEA has awarded the Purple Star campus designation. So Purple Star rolled out in 2021 school year. And as you can see, we had 116 total campuses identified. Now, the designation is held for 2 years, and so you'll see a drop in the number for 21-22 school year. But if you look all the way to the most recent designation, 24-25, we had 542 campuses identified. Currently, right now, we have 692 designation between the 23-24 and 24-25, but we have opened up our 25-26 campus Purple Star applications for our renewals. And so this is an opportunity for our stakeholders to understand how many Purple Star campuses were awarded by each of the regions, and then comparing that to the total number of military connected students. And then the last of our data brief that we have, just wanted to make you aware that if you are interested in some of these data, we, like I had mentioned before, we developed 20 regional data briefs for our ESCs. So each of our ESCs, Education Service Center, has a military champion that's designated to help support our local education agencies within their region. Each of their ESCs received a 1 page of the report that mimics the same format as our statewide data brief. So looking at the PEIMS or MSI codes, the increase, the numbers across the 3 different data analysis, but also the Purple Star campus designation awards in the 5 years. And so how that has helped the ESC is identifying which campuses they can help support, or which districts that they can help support in improving and strengthening their support and services for our military connected students. Because along with this region report, each of the ESCs also had an opportunity to meet with our program to be able to look at the local education agencies, which is the school districts and open charter schools, and looking specifically at each of those campuses, what the numbers are for their military connected students based on PEIMS code, and having a discussion with us on how they can improve and strengthen their support so that they can help identify more of our military connected students. Do we have any questions about the data before I hand it over to Mr. Dobbins to share about Purple Star?
Dr. Lea, I was wondering if you could speak briefly, and I apologize if you already provided this definition, but if you can speak a little bit to when you refer to military champions, to what you're referring.
Okay, so each our military champions at the Region Center, because it's not grant funded, these are volunteers at the Education Service Center. These staff members hold different roles such as federal programs or student support, and the executive director of each of these Education Service Centers have identified a staff member who will be overseeing the support and services for the school districts and open enrollment charter schools in the area of military connected. So we meet with them quarterly to be able to provide support and answer technical assistance questions, and that way they can help to support their school districts. This is also a good way for us to strengthen our local, regional, and statewide partnership across Texas in ensuring that the same quality support from the state is being provided to all of the school districts within Texas.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Dobbins.
Thank you, Ann. Our next update highlights an amazing, impactful tool that was released in January 2025, the Purple Star Rise TEA Learn course. This course was created to support Texas schools with the implementation of the Purple Star campus designation. Whether the campus is new to the Purple Star campus designation or has been a Purple Star campus for some time, the content, information, tools, resources, and guides in the course will support the rise of Purple Star campuses across the state of Texas and beyond. And Ann's going to put the link to this course in the chat. Anyone can take this course. On the next slide, no, we're good. I'm sorry. That's the correct slide. Purple Star Rise is a 5-module course that walks participants through all aspects of the Purple Star campus designation and unique elements of supporting military-connected students. The course can be taken in one sitting or broken out into individual settings and subsections and is adaptable to the learner's needs. The course is free and available to all learners within and outside of the state of Texas. Participants who complete the course will receive a certificate with 3 continuing professional education credits. Each content module is designed to build upon each other as information is presented to the learner. Format is aligned across the entire course. 10 unique tools were developed for Purple Star Rise to serve local education agencies, and we will get into these tools a little bit more in depth in just a moment. Next, we'd like to share some updates and information about the 2025-26 Purple Star campus designation process.
All right. On the next slide, we do have a timeline with important dates for our Purple Star campus designation application process. We held a Purple Star interest meeting on March 19th. Typically, we do hold an interest meeting in the fall and the spring, but due to the transition with Dr. Bowser, we were unfortunately unable to hold an interest meeting in fall. We had a very good turnout for our spring one. Our application window opened Friday, April 4th. We currently have 4 submissions at this time, but we did enhance the rigor and also the support within the Purple Star application process this year. And so we are very excited to see the strengthened applications that we will be receiving to be reviewed. We are offering 2 office hours. The first one is going to be this week. It's going to be the first one to support any applicants who are just starting off their application and may have questions. We do have a lot of first timers who have shown interest in applying for the Purple Star campus designation. And so we're going to see a lot of first timers and renewals for this round. Our second office hours is going to be scheduled towards the end of the window to help support any last minute questions and inquiries that potential applicants may have. And then it will close Friday, June 6th. After that, we will be doing our application review process. This year, the internal and external reviewers will have 4 weeks to review the application. And then we're going to take July to be able to clean up any of the last minute tasks that we have. And then we plan to announce our awards in September of 2025. And then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Dobbins. He's going to share the information about the 10 Purple Star resources that were developed and are available for our field.
And as I go through each of the slides, Ann will be dropping some of the links in the chat. Also, in a bit, we'll drop our link to our military connected inbox on our email. If you need additional slides, I saw a couple of people were having trouble opening some of the links we're giving you. Just email us, we will get you the links. On this slide, we provide 3 resources to assist campuses during the Purple Star campus designation process. There is the application overview and checklist, application guide, and application rubric. Campuses should be utilizing these 3 documents while they are applying to receive the Purple Star campus designation. On the next slide, we have the frequently asked questions, provides answers to common questions TA previously received during the Purple Star campus designation application process. We have the annual calendar and timeline resources, offers key considerations and recommendations for the campus-based military liaison to guide monthly and annual planning for the Purple Star campus designation. On the next slide, we have Key terms. Having a shared understanding of common language helps to facilitate seamless transition, enhance student engagement, and build strong supportive school communities and effective Purple Star campuses. The Texas laws and policy requirements helps effectively provide campus transition support to incoming military connected students. On the next slide, additionally, we have two unique tools to support the military, to support campus military liaisons' roles to coordinate staff professional development on unique needs related to military connected students and the importance of fostering partnerships and collaboration between schools, local military installations, community stakeholders, and veteran service organizations. Lastly, on the next slide, we have resources outline the required elements that are needed for the campus military webpage for military families and best practices for implementing campus transition programs to support incoming military connected students. And this was from some of the questions earlier. This is a great resource that will help with a lot of the information our families need. Any Purple Star campus, we have requirements of what is needed on the webpage, and a lot of the concerns or information that was shared earlier that wanted to be shared out should be on this military webpage on each campus.
One of the things we didn't put in here, and we would be remiss to not mention, is during this application process, we have heard a lot from the field about having an example of applications that are appropriate and things like that, or an example of just an exemplar, and that's what we built out for this year as well. We've built out an exemplary application, multiple examples that potential applicants can look through and see the responses of just stellar application responses in there, so that they can be guided into filling out their application to make sure that they meet the requirements of our Purple Star campus designation. But on top of that, we also provided calibration activities for our reviewers who will be reviewing the application that mimics a lot of the application exemplar. So not only did we provide additional resources for our applicants, we were providing additional resources and examples for our reviewers as well. This helps to align and calibrate between our internal and external reviewers, but also alignment to the Purple Star campus criteria as it's stated in statute, and making sure that we're upholding the law, but also the requirements, so that it is fair and equitable across all the applicants that we do receive. All right. On the next section of our,
I just wanted to call out, I did not intend to ask the question before, or ask for the answer before. Let me try that again. Ask the question and then answer it as a part of this of today's meeting. What I'm trying to say is, so many of the things that the questions we were asking we were talking about priorities are things that are being implemented or that exist. I had, in full disclosure, had not seen this this is another department's presentation. Just want to call out on this slide. This Purple Star campus designation webpage requirements. Creating an effective campus webpage, which Colonel Dalby was just talking about. And so I hope council members are taking some notes as we continue our conversation. We'll summarize and share this deck with members who weren't with us as well, because I think this actually would have been a really nice launching for the conversation about some of the kinds of things that are actually already being done, and how the council can support and leverage resources that are in existence to do exactly the things that we were talking about, and promoting awareness across the state. So thanks so much, and I will turn it back to you, Dr. Lynn.
Absolutely. When we were listening to the comments, we got super excited. We're like, we want to show you. So yes, thank you so much. Our next level of support that we do have on our next slide is our Purple Star Campus support. This is a brand new PLC series. If we go on to the next slide, you'll kind of see the flyer that we have developed. So this is new. Our 23-24 and 24-25 Purple Star designees. They're part of our 3-part professional learning community or PLC series. First time ever that we have this to offer, thanks to our partnership with Military Child Education Coalition. It's designed for school professionals and educators at campuses across Texas that have earned Purple Star Campus designation. We've also extended this out to our ESC military champions, which we've mentioned before at the regional level, to attend so that they can strengthen the support that we provide to our LEAs in their region. The PLC series includes a professional development training and an accompanying office hour in which we discuss, answer questions, clarify any information that was presented to them at the PLC. Each of the PLC is unique, and it's a great way to tap into a network of peers and partners to support military-connected students and be presented with research-based tools and resources to share best practices. On our next slide, what you'll see here is one of the promotional flyers that went out into our social media with the help of our MSEC. We developed a unique Purple Star Campus listserv based on the 23-24 awardees and 24-25 awardees. This listserv is over 700 participants in there. We have marketing and promotional announcements that go out monthly in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and this has positively impacted our reach and attendance for military-related training opportunities, such as our Purple Star Rise course completion, but it's also reached local education agencies who were unaware of Purple Star Campus designation or supports and services to our military-connected student population. And then before we go into the next slide, we also want to mention that we are developing a Texas cohort of Education Service Center military champions and our TEA staff members who will be participating in MSEC's GTS Summit in Washington, D.C. this summer. We're developing this cohort to strengthen the support that is provided to the school districts and open enrollment charter schools, and so that we can help to continue the efforts to bring more support and services to the unique needs of our military connected student population. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Dobbins to share out the remainder of our updates.
Thank you, Ann. On this slide, we provide a preview of the 3 topic areas of our 3 professional learning community professional development sessions. We have the Purple Star implementation. We also had campus transition support. And our last one will be May 21st, where we'll focus on best practices for Purple Star campuses. During this PLC, we will also discuss military initiatives. On the next slide, I would just like to thank you for allowing us the time to give you an overview of our Purple Star designation program and our efforts to support military-connected students. And lastly, before we conclude our portion, we'd like to share that we will be recruiting volunteers to be 2025-26 Purple Star Campus Designation Application Reviewers. We currently have 8 of our state SLOs that have volunteered. Should you be inclined to share out or help us recruit additional SLOs in your area, we have a QR code with more information, or email us we'll drop our email, our Military Connected Students inbox, and we would be happy to share this with you. The more volunteers, the merrier. And lastly, do we have any questions or comments?
I've got a comment. You guys are doing great work. Good job. It was very good. Appreciate all
Thank
the
you, sir.
At the end of the day, you know, as we all know from our own kids and those close to us, this is all worth it at the end of the day. If we can help streamline something that is a a very difficult process for a lot of families. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Lay and Mr. Robbins for joining the council today. The Purple Star, as I mentioned, it's a separate initiative. It is not actually directly aligned with the Military Interstate Compact. However, one of the sessions that they're presenting is on transitions, classroom transitions. The Purple Star is a recognition of campuses that are distinguished in their support for military students. And a part of that is how well you're implementing the compact, ensuring that students have access to the support and rights that they're entitled to under that compact. So there's definitely connection points. I think the council has a lot of opportunities to look at some of the training and resources and supports that have been developed around the Purple Star application in reaching some of its own goals and priorities. So I just want to thank you again for your work and for presenting to this group today. This is the group that the council just broadened the language instead of being a specific coordinator, but a liaison for military education's support liaison. And so we will work with Kelly Kravis, their division director, to identify that council member who will be ex officio, but participate in future conversations. And then we'll just continue to receive updates from the great work that our highly mobile at-risk team is doing in this space. So thanks again. At this point, I also want to make sure that volunteer opportunity and access to the slide deck will be included in the minutes that we'll send out to you before the end of the month. Opportunity for any other council member reports.
Hey, this is Damon Dalby, Colonel Dalby. I think this might be my last meeting in here. I'm retiring in June. Or transitioning, whatever you want to call it. I will have a replacement coming in not too distant future, but I just want to say thank you to everybody here. As my son has gone from Miami, where he was Spanish speaking, to Korea, and then to here. It's a tough adjustment for them as is. So to have a program that helps these kids, kind of welcomes them in, is a big relief for somebody, for a 7-year-old that's really just been around the world. So thank you all for all the work you're doing. It does matter.
We want to thank you for your service, and both on the council and in your military career. Please reach out and let me know who to start sending those invitations to. Colonel Dalby will work with you to identify a replacement. On that note, we do have, as I mentioned, other potential new council members at our next meeting, some that might take us a little bit more time because of that identification process. But one that I failed to mention is the council representative. And I apologize. So I just wanted to let the staff know that that is something we're actually actively working with our counseling and student support division here at TEA, and hope to potentially have a school counselor joining at our next meeting too. So we will be minus a colonel, hopefully plus a counselor, and also Colonel Dalby's replacement. Thank you so much. Other updates from the council members? We're hearing none from the larger group. Just a reminder, I have extended an opportunity and an invitation to the national headquarters office to have a representative join the council's next meeting, just to give kind of a high-level overview of some updates from the national headquarters, as well as how I've also asked for, one of my questions is just to tell us a little bit about what some of the activities of other state advisory councils as we look at priorities. I just asked to pull a couple of ideas from other states in space that their councils are working within that you might want to consider as we start to look at where we can go from here together. And then a TEA staffing update. I have not yet hired a replacement for a curriculum specialist, Sherry Messer's position, but I have filled the position I held in curriculum before I stepped into the division director role. And that's going to help me hire the curriculum specialist who will report to that person. And so we should, hopefully, if not in our July meeting, start the new quarter with also someone to help me with the logistics of the meeting and make sure that things like minutes are getting out on time to you. So we're making some progress with one hiring, but hope to make one more. And then that third TEA position that has been open that was previously filled by Jimmy Bowser, that council just took action today that will help us to fill that with a member from the team and the highly mobile at risk division. So that is our TEA staffing update. Last, just upcoming events, reminder that our next council meeting is Monday, July 21st. You'll receive a tentative agenda in advance with your panelist link. And then if there's something you would like to add, please reach out to me and we can integrate that into our update. Right now, our tentative agenda for the Monday, July 21st meeting, please save the date. And you can share that with your replacement, Colonel Dalby, so they have it on their calendar, so we can have a seamless transition. We'll have another update on progress we've made in filling out. That's my priority for the council this year, is to fill in some of those vacancies to the extent that we can. So hopefully we'll have an update for you on progress that we've made in July. We will continue the council priorities conversation. Today was fairly broad. Hopefully we'll have more members and start to narrow in and identify some actionable next steps. We'll have meeting dates. We'll propose some meeting dates for you for the next 4 quarters, because July is the last meeting we have on the calendar. And as I mentioned, we'll have that MIC3 update from national headquarters. My call there, one, if you have any other agenda items you would like to propose today, I'll give you just a minute to mention those. Also, if you have any topics that you would like to hear from the national headquarters, I'll give you a minute now to do that, or you can reach out to me by email. So I'll pause here and see if we have any suggestions for our next agenda or topics we would like national headquarters to address. Perfectly fine if nothing comes to mind now. If you think of something, don't hesitate to let me know. Or when you receive the tentative agenda, you can always, I'll give you a window of time to suggest additional items before we actually convene. With that, thank you so much. As always, feedback is a gift and we welcome your feedback each meeting. So if you have a moment to snap that QR code, it will also be included as a link when we send the meetings. Opportunity to let us know how we're doing, as well as to let us know what we could do differently, what you would like to see in the future. Any comments or feedback that you have, we would appreciate and welcome. But with that, I will go ahead and call our meeting at 2:53. We are adjourned. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you in July. You will be hearing from us before then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Great job.
Thanks all.